Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Garbaugust 2025. This is, of course, Criminali's beloved and famous BookTube event designed to celebrate the reading of trash in August. And to feel no guilt about that at all. The world is going to heck in a handbasket. Why not read trash? Now, I've been having a blast with Garbaugust in 2025, as I have every year. I love this event very much. And I view it not only as a relief from the horrors of the daily news, which in my country has recently fallen to fascism, and the dictator of my country is now experimenting with sending the military into cities that he doesn't like. To have armed men stroll down the suburban sidewalks and stop next to people just sitting on their porches and say, "Want to cut that hair?" And also, I detect pot. The boss doesn't like it when you smoke pot, so, can we clean that up? Let's clean that up, okay? Also, the grass needs watering or whatnot. Boss likes it to look nice. Each individual one of them has 3 firearms. They have a tank at the end of the street. No one, so far as I know on camera, has ever told them to go to hell by a short road, which is the only thing that you should be told when an armed lout comes up to you and says the boss doesn't like what you're doing. Who the hell cares what the boss likes and doesn't like? Seeing footage like that makes it all the more likely to turn to trash. And for me, the turning to trash has a tricky acrobatic element to it because I read a lot of trash anyway. Unlike a lot of people who participate in Garbaugust, I read a lot of trash anyway all year long. Only it's not the right kind of trash. It's trash where the writer doesn't know it's trash. Thinks it's good. And I try to avoid that kind of trash for Garbaugust. For Garbaugust, I try to deal with stuff that everybody is in on the joke. Everybody knows that. And I honestly don't know whether or not that's true for the book I read last night. I honestly don't know. It's by Eric Brown, and since Eric and Brown, the first and last name, are not other things on their own, like sun or the name of a mythological character or some sort of in-joke that the indie writer thinks they're the only one in the world smart enough to see through. Since that just sounds like a name, I'm assuming that it is just a name. So maybe this isn't a pseudonym. And the book is Bigfoot versus Preppers, which taps into two subjects that I love reading about. And researching and going down rabbit holes on YouTube. I love both these things. Of course, Bigfoot refers to the idea, I'll put it in its simplest terms, the persistent theory that there is a large anthropoid species undiscovered by science living in the forests and jungles of the world. In America, most especially in the Pacific Northwest, known as Bigfoot or Sasquatch. The idea behind Bigfoot is that all of the tracks, all of the hair samples, all of the calls, all of the wood knocks, all of the sightings can't all be false. Simple as that. And if they're not all false, if any of them are true and not a bear, then the world isn't what we think it is. Then there is a very near relative to humans alive on Earth and just not found. So that is the basis of Bigfoot. Basically, there's a whole lot more. I won't get into crystals or lights or portals or anything like that. That is the basis of Bigfoot, is that somewhere in the Earth biome there is an extremely large, undiscovered race of animals. 2-legged, multi-fingered, binocular vision, anthropoids, ape-like creatures. Doesn't seem possible, probably is impossible. Because we wouldn't be talking about an individual, we'd be talking about a breeding population of tens of thousands. It seems pretty impossible that such a thing could exist without any concrete documentation. Now, Bigfoot fans, among whom I know plenty of people, I've interviewed one of them on this channel, and I love them. I love them for their sincerity. I love them, actually, believe it or not, for their respective science. They would argue, no, that's not true. There are vast untapped wildernesses in this world. You don't know what lives in them and what doesn't. The thing is, I've been in those vast untapped wildernesses, and when I did, over every inch and knot and snake of them, I was in the company of a whole bunch of people whose senses are 1,000 times better than my own. A whole bunch of dogs. And they brought back word to me, they alerted to me very quickly for all kinds of things. in the Yukon, in the forests of Russia, in the Pacific Northwest itself, all over the world. They brought back alerts to me immediately of anything that was a concern to me. Moose, for instance, bear especially, deer even. Deer. Do you want to know? Do you want to know if something big is moving near our area? We will tell you. And of course, they brought me back alerts, instantaneous alerts, of the single most dangerous thing that you can find when you are out in the back of beyond, in the middle of nowhere, in a forest with no one within 100 miles, and that is other humans. That is the single most dangerous thing. That is the thing that should make you hide. That is the thing that should make you defensive and afraid. Not a snake, not even a bear. Other humans. And they did that. My boys did that all the time. Over all that terrain, over all those years. And there was never any of these gigantic roving bands of beings that are beheading deer and whatnot. There was never any hint of that. And I was in these places, before you jump to conclusions, I was in these places often, very often, in what we would call the off-season. So, no possibility. Anyway, that is the Bigfoot idea. And then there's preppers. And preppers are not meal preppers. They are not the fitness tubers that I love to watch, who prep their meals every week. The classic magician sleight of hand when a fitness tuber with muscles out to here preps his meals on camera, shows you exactly the caloric content and how much protein and whatnot. That is classic magician's misdirect. Yes, they are prepping their meals, and they are chain smoking all week. So they are not fitness. They are not involved in fitness. They are just grifters. But it's not them that we're talking about. It's doomsday preppers. The large group of people in the world, especially in the West, who are actively preparing for when the you-know-what hits the fan. When the system that we know now falls apart. For whatever reason. Doesn't have to be Red Dawn with Patrick Swayze. For whatever reason. What do you do when the electric grid goes down and is not coming back up? What do you do when law and order breaks down and suddenly, maybe not your immediate neighbors, but those people from 10 streets over who've never seen you, want anything they can take of yours? What do you do when help is not coming? When the system breaks and help is not coming? If the electric grid goes down, keep in mind, it's not just that your lights go off, it's that your water stops. Your sanitation stops. Are you going to want to drive around in circumstances like that and alert everyone around you to the fact that you have a working car? Also, gas stations run on electricity, so you're not going to fill that car very often. Doomsday preppers look at all of that. They theorize all of that and come up with survival skills around it. Do you have shelter in case you lose your shelter? Do you have a source of power, a generator, in case you keep your shelter but you lose your power? Do you have clean water? A supply of it. 1 gallon per person per day. Do you have... well, the generator would be for keeping things cool, including medication. But also, do you have protection? Doomsday preppers on YouTube have to avoid the copyright, so they say protection instead of firearms. Why they need to avoid copyright when there are people on YouTube showing pornography, I have no idea. I guess it depends on the size of your channel. But do you have all of those things? That's what preppers ask. They ask themselves, and if they have a YouTube channel, they ask you. Do you have all of those things? And that is the sane end of the pool for prepping. Just that. Do you have all those things? And I am in that sane end of the pool. I'm in the same end of both these things, actually. I think there's still a chance that there might be a small, very rare population of giant anthropoids. I don't believe that all of those eyewitness accounts for 100 years could all be false. And a lot of those accounts are made by people who know what a bear looks like. I want to believe, anyway. And with preppers, I'm at the sane end of the pool because I believe you should have that kind of a buffer zone against catastrophe. It's not necessarily aliens striking the Earth. Anything could go wrong. And as I've asked on this channel many times before, if something like that went wrong, how ready are you? Do you have 5 shelves of non-perishable goods, non-perishable foods in your kitchen, in your pantry, that you ignore? You look at it once a month to rotate out the dates, but otherwise you ignore it. Do you have that? Or are you entirely dependent on takeout, which won't happen if the grid goes down? Or the grocery store, which will be empty in an hour, and would be the last place you'd want to end up. Do you have water? You could be stockpiling water. Almost certainly somewhere where you live, there is a place for you to stockpile water. Are you doing that? Do you have a generator and cans of gas for the generator? These things are easy to accumulate gradually, and they could make the difference between life and death if they're actually needed. That's the sane end of the pool. Actual doomsday preppers go way to the other end, way to the other end. They're the ones who are making plans to kill, dress, and eat their neighbors. They're the ones who are stocking up absurd amounts of absurd things. They're the ones who've just given in to their paranoia. If the grid goes down and the world ends as we know it, and there is no help coming and there is no restoration, you can tell a difference between a sane end of the world prepper and an insane end of the world prepper, because a sane end of the world prepper will say, well, if that happens, I've bought a little survival until maybe things get back to normal. It's the most I can do. I can't affect the infrastructure of anything. So it's the most I can do. Is not to be caught literally with my pants down. The insane end of the prepper pool says that if the grid goes down, nothing at all, anywhere, in existence is more important than my personal day-to-day survival, including my wife, including my children. Nothing is more important than that. Well, the people who think that way, not in a doomsday scenario, but just normally in everyday life, we already know what to think of such people. The people who think that way are bad people and insane people, insanely selfish people. So those are the two groups that are in this book. That's basically what Eric Brown is setting up here, is that a bunch of survivalists, that's actually what they call themselves, preppers in the book, encounter Sasquatch. And this forces Eric Brown to come up with a whole bunch of different scenarios. Some of the scenarios are very favored by Sasquatch fans, who love to titillate their audience with how scary these things are. I subscribe to virtually every regularly posting Bigfoot channel on YouTube, and virtually every regularly posting prepper channel on YouTube. And I know that in both cases, a lot of the goal is the same, which may be the canny realization at the heart of this book. Eric Brown might be smarter than I give him credit. The basic impetus at the beginning of both of those kinds of videos is to scare you. Give you a good flashlight on the face, campfire story scare. Now, Bigfoot enthusiasts will say, no, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to pursue a scientific inquiry here. We want to find this thing and make documented, irrefutable proof that it exists so that people will stop calling us crazy. And sane preppers, much harder to find a sane prepper than an insane Bigfoot researcher. A sane prepper will say, no, we're not trying to scare you. It's just look at the world. It's entirely likely that this kind of disruption would happen. We're not trying to scare you, we're trying to save you. Those kinds of sane versions of both these communities, Eric Brown is not interested in at all. He's not interested in them. Instead, his preppers are a little more well-drawn than his Sasquatch, naturally. His Sasquatch tend to be on the verge of supernatural. There's an early scene in this book where two preppers are confronted. They are charged by a Sasquatch. Sasquatch famously don't do that. But they are charged by a Sasquatch, and the older prepper is ready. The two of them have been hiking in the wilderness, and he is ready with a Glock, which, for those of you who don't know, is an extremely powerful handgun. And he is not prone to panic, and he has marksmanship training. And when this thing charges at him, he hits it 3 times in the chest at relatively point-blank range. And the thing isn't even barely hurt. It manages to keep charging and kill the man and then grumble and walk off. And that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. Billiard ball-sized holes would be punched in it from the front to the back, unless it's made of armored steel. And that gives you your first hint in this book at the melodramatic stakes, the way that Eric Brown is going to raise the melodramatic stakes, and he does. He does, very much so, and very effectively. This is, I don't hesitate to call it trash, if only for the incredibly febrile, overheated way that it's written. But it's good trash. It's very enjoyable trash. Now, if the author somehow stumble across this video and take offense that I'm calling his book trash, well, I am, Buttercup. I am calling your book trash, but you wrote really good trash. Trash that people ought to pay to read. That isn't the kind of endorsement most people get from me, so you ought to count your blessings. I really enjoyed this. This ended up being... I was worried at the beginning. There's a couple of moments in the beginning, especially between some of the humans, where I was worried that this was going to be one of those trash books for Garbaugust 2025 that have given me the unpleasant surprise of ending up being kind of heartfelt, kind of good. I was worried that this was going to be one of those unpleasant moments, but it isn't. It's pure pathos. It's pure melodrama from start to finish, and it was so enjoyable. Oh my God, it was so enjoyable. So my Garbaugust book for today is a recommend. We are ending Garbaugust. Garbaugust has only a few days left, but this is a pretty good example of the kind of trash I like to read during this event. So there you go, a recommend for Bigfoot versus preppers. So I'll wrap this up for now. I will see you next time. Thank you, BookTube.